5 of them are here with us in studio at the Canadian Broadcasting Centre. And for all 5, I've got another yes or no question for you now. This one is about climate change. Toronto has a plan to reduce community-wide greenhouse gas emissions in the city, and that is to net zero by 2040. You're all aware of this. It's called Transform TO. The question is, will you commit to fully funding Transform TO to deal with climate change? Yes or no, and you will each have 1 minute to explain why. Let's start over here. Josh Matlow, you can kick things off, please.
I believe that I'm the only candidate running who has a genuinely dedicated funding plan for Transform TO. It's a very ambitious plan. I want Toronto not just to be a participant in fighting the climate crisis, I want us to be a global leader. So while we need to move forward with Transform TO, it's not good enough just to announce that we've got it. So my plan is to dedicate a corporate commercial parking levy. It won't affect like small grocers or small plazas or small shops. But for the Walmarts of the world, they can pitch in. So staff at the city estimate that we'll be able to bring in just under 200 million to over $500 million a year. I'm going to be taking $200 million, putting it toward Transform TO, and that will also include reversing those just wrong-headed cuts to the TTC, because TTC, if you make it more safe, reliable, and affordable, more people will choose the better way, and that obviously contributes to a better environment and a quality of life.
All right, thank you, Josh. Let's move on to Mitzi Hunter now. Will you commit to fully funding Transform TO? Yes or no? 1 minute to explain why.
I do support Transform TO, and I will commit to that. Under my plan, we have integrated climate resiliency and response. So I've started off with the resiliency, because we have to recognize that climate change is real. We have a crisis right now. When you look at the extreme weather, there are fires burning all over this country. That affects our city as well. And I want to make sure we protect seniors from extreme heat, extreme cold, make sure flooding, which is a real risk to property owners, I want to make sure that that's protected. In addition to that, my housing plan also includes making sure that we have like tower renewal. I've increased the funding for that so that we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in terms of how we live in the city. I want to add more trees so that we have a cooler city in terms of the heat. We add more trees in park, 17 acres of park. I want to add as part of my housing plan. I want to add solar panels. So I'm integrating our response into the existing plans that I have to build more affordable housing, and of course investing more in transit. I'm the only candidate that has outlined how I will invest in more subways. The North York Scarborough subway extension needs to be built as well.
Thank you, Mitzi. Olivia Chow, to you. Will you commit to fully funding Transform TO?
Yes, I will. You can hear the voice is a bit hoarse. I was wearing a mask coming down because the air is not very good, caused by the fires, which is caused by the climate crisis. We know that it is happening. So we have to keep it under 1.5 degree. And we can invest in public transit. That's really important because it will reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Number 2, we burn less and pay less by retrofitting homes, whether it's TCHC homes or our homes, solar panels, all that. Let's partner with the federal government again to do the eco-energy retrofit. And the new homes that we're building, we talked about building a lot of new housing, right? Just a few minutes ago. Let's make sure they use the highest green standard. Excuse me. So lastly, the waste footprint, the waste reduction, we have to do it because a lot of greenhouse gas emission comes from that. And a lot of condominiums and high-rises are now not sorting, so we, for their compost and recycling, let's put the sorter in so that there'll be more reduction of waste.
Thank you. Thank you, Olivia. I'll let you have a sip of water and we'll move on to Mark Saunders now. Yes. Your commitment, will you commit to fully funding Transform TO?
What I can say, my plan is not to allow us to sit comfortably and allow people to be congested in traffic. So the equivalency of 23 working days a year, the fact that we're scoring 7th in the world for our congestion and the amount of carbon footprint that that is causing. I'm a strong believer that we have to expand on our subway grid for a multitude of reasons. When I knock on the doors and talk to people, their complaint is getting around this city and getting around this city effectively. And if we don't do anything about that, if we don't work towards working collectively to making our transit system more robust, we're #1 in Canada, but we are not doing great. We have to make sure that the funding's there so that when a newcomers come into this city, they have opportunities of going to and from work within a limited time frame, and people that are on roads or off roadways and using more transit system.
And you've explained your plan, but clarify for me, was that a yes or a no to funding fully Transform TO?
My plan is about reducing the carbon footprint that's there. And it's by working hard, working with agencies, it's working with the public to see what we need to do to get there.
Do you acknowledge there's a climate crisis?
There's absolutely a climate crisis.
Just fair to say no on that. I'm just marking it down on my, just for everyone's
I'm
responses.
saying that we're going to move to, no, I'm going to be funding a lot for the green footprint
But
that
what
we,
about
that we
the
need to do.
existing city plan to
It
get to
actually
net
is
I'm
zero?
going to work with
It's a
that
very
existing
ambitious
plan,
plan.
but you know, there are some flaws with the plan. So to commit to things that are flawed,
it's a
I'm not
no.
supportive of.
So
So it
that's-
needs to be fixed and it needs to be done better.
It's a no.
Thank you, Mark Saunders. Last response from you, Anna Bailão.
That is actually a very good plan that the City of Toronto has, ambitious, with targets for all 3 orders of government. Everything that we will be doing under my leadership will have a climate lens, from how we plan the city to how we build the city, both by guidelines on how we provide to who's building to, leading by example. We're just developing the Etobicoke Civic Center. That's going to be a net zero building to make sure that we're also leading by example as well. The way that we plan our mobility to make sure that investing in the TTC. I will invest in the TTC. I will invest in making sure that we have, extended working hours so that when construction happens on the roads, that it happens quicker so we can move more quickly. Absolutely. We need a full mobility strategy. That's what I have, because I am not a us versus them. I'm about moving people, if they are on TTC, if they are on cars, if they are on cycling, and if they are pedestrians, and moving in a safe way. But everything, even the way that we purchase, how we purchase our buses, we have, with the exception of Edmonton, I think they have one more bus than we do. We have the largest electric fleet. Under my leadership, we will keep going that way. Everything will have a climate lens.
All right. Thank you, Anna Bailão. Thank you, candidates, for sharing your thoughts